Well, John, you're widely known for your work in relationships. How did you get involved in being interested in health and well-being?
Well, I became interested in health and well-being about 15 years ago. I turned 50 and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And of course, I had an aunt who had Parkinson's, and once you take the medication, it just keeps working less and less and less. You have to take more and more medication. So in a sense, it's a death sentence. So I looked for alternative solutions and began studying the brain, the science of the brain, and found natural solutions to it. And I was able to halt my Parkinson's and then reverse my Parkinson's. And since then, there's been many studies showing these natural solutions to be effective at least halting Parkinson's, and in some cases reversing it. And even still with those studies, I feel I have developed even more ideas. Every year we discover new things. And of course the big question came about, which is why I got Parkinson's, and began to study, because it's very important for people to understand what's causing the mental problems that are going on in America. In the last 35 years, we have literally over 35 times more mental illness. And that goes from 1 out of 6 women on antidepressants, people on anxiety medicines. That goes to 1 out of 5 boys taking Ritalin or Adderall for ADHD. We're looking at 1 out of 50 boys, 1 out of 50 children in America now being diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder. It was just 30 years ago when 1 out of 10,000 children were diagnosed with that. So this is huge. It's an earthquake of shifting of what's happening. You know, people who aren't seeing the kids in school lining up to get their drugs, and parents are being told there's no side effects, and yet what's not being publicized is from Harvard. There's studies showing it's causing permanent brain damage, lack of motivation later in life, obesity, addiction, inability to sustain relationships. That's been my focus. What I've been seeing is that with the younger generation, and many people today, there's twice as many single people compared to married people as just 20 years ago. So we're seeing huge shifts in our mental wellness, and you kind of go, what is going on? And I've done the research, and it's very important for people to understand what's causing this. I feel it's just like a crime against nature when they say we don't know what causes. Are you kidding? We don't know? I have over 150,000 studies on PubMed showing the cause of it's the same cause for all these brain problems, for autistic type disorders, for ADHD disorders, anxiety disorders, depression disorder, Parkinson's disorder, dementia disorder, Asperger's. All of these is coming from one condition, which is called oxidative stress in the brain. Now, oxidative stress in the brain literally means your immune system is not putting out the fires. These infections are happening all the time. When you have more free radicals than antioxidants, infections occur. And the immune system has the power to put out those infections. However, we have chronic infections, and then we have all these infectious diseases now, and we treat them with antibiotics, okay? And when you treat it with antibiotics, you can get symptomatic relief. However, what you do is you destroy the gut bacteria. And it's the gut bacteria that can actually produce the vitamins and the nutrients for healthy brain function. So we've been going along with antibiotics for so long, and then suddenly come GMOs. GMOs are actually patented as antibiotics. You feed animals GMOs, those antibiotics are going into your system. They're going to kill the good bacteria in your gut. We see 1/3 of Americans today.
Well, let me just say that it's not the GMOs, it's the glyphosate in the RoundUp that's applied to the GMO
Exactly. Let me
crops.
correct myself. Is that the glyphosate, which you make a GMO plant, now you can apply glyphosate to it.
Which was originally patented as an antibiotic.
That's right. Thank you for correcting me. It's the glyphosate was patented as an antibiotic. And what that does, it goes into your system and kills the good bacteria. This is just so well known. And then they say, okay, make sure to get some good probiotics. A few probiotics is not going to heal your gut. It helps a little bit, but we're causing gut damage. And this is basically indigestion. How do we get the fuel for our brain? We have to digest it. How do we create the vitamins for our body? We have to digest them, and we're not doing it. And when you can't produce the vitamins, then you can't make something called glutathione. Glutathione is made by your liver. And you can't detoxify toxicity unless you have glutathione. You can't protect brain cells from oxidative stress unless you have enough glutathione. And you can't make brain chemicals in abundance without glutathione. It's a precursor. And you know, we've got on one hand, we've got all these over-the-counter drugs, but the big thing which has been happening is these glyphosates. It's proven now they go in and they kill the good gut bacteria. And this is literally inhibiting the body's ability to heal itself. And so we see this devastating landscape of what's going on. I get to see it every day as a marriage counselor, but also in my wellness centers. I see all these conditions. And you know, we do have, fortunately, some good natural solutions to help. But let's say you have a headache, and I have a natural solution that will take away your headache. But if you keep hitting yourself over the head with a hammer, it won't work. That's the amazing thing. I suggest this to some people, it works fantastically. Other people, they're still eating the corn syrup, which is grown with the glyphosates. And wheat, which is, I found out, is that while wheat is not a GMO, once the wheat is grown, they spray it with glyphosates to kill all the bugs in it. So you're just getting wheat infused with glyphosates, which go into your gut, and they destroy digestion. So now we've got a third of the population saying, I can't handle milk, I can't handle wheat, I'm gluten intolerant. Really what they are is they can't digest. It's just gluten and pasteurized dairy are hard to digest. And the wheat, which is, now they've got a GMO yeast, which causes the wheat to rise faster, and the agent that makes it rise. It's a GMO agent, so it rises faster, which makes the bread have more gluten. But the bottom line is that glyphosates are wiping out a whole population's ability to digest.
So it's not perhaps that all GMOs are a bad thing. There's genetically modified insulin, which was a fantastic contribution to society. But the genetic modification to withstand specifically the glyphosate in RoundUp is what seems to be a problem.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's what we know to be true. There's just no doubt about it. You can debate the whole issue. Is it good to alter nature? How much can you alter nature? Can you put fish genes into your broccoli? I mean, we could have debates about that. But what we know to be absolutely true is glyphosates kill good bacteria in your gut. Right. And this is not a healthy thing. And we look at this massive problem which is going on today. And there's other toxic substances, but this is like the number one. Sure. You know, most
glyphosate in combination with aluminum.
That's right.
It also, you know, further exacerbates the harmful effects of all of these other chemicals.
You know, you got all the toxicity, but if we can understand a little bit more about the gut, because the gut is so important. When you have a healthy gut, the gut has evolved over millions of years. It's called a microbiome. It's 2 pounds sitting down here in your gut. And it's all different bacteria with DNA, which is completely non-human, 10 times more. And it has functions that have evolved for centuries and centuries, thousands of years, in order to work together with the brain and work together with the gut. And this is often called the second brain. And when it's not functioning, everything starts breaking down, and that's what we're seeing. So here's an example of healthy gut bacteria. A doctor by the name of Dr. Yamamoto in Japan in 1998 discovered that people who have cancer are missing a particular protein. That protein is called GcMAF. And so he went to people who didn't have cancer and extracted from their urine GcMAF. And the GcMAF, he gave it to people with cancer and it cured it. Okay? There's now lots and lots of studies showing this. Well, what makes GcMAF? Your gut bacteria. So it was many years later, and a decade later, at University of Kentucky, the whole department did 134 studies to find out what combination of probiotic bacteria will make GcMAF, and they discovered it. And there's clinics in Switzerland that are making yogurt from this bacteria, good bacteria, that will make the GcMAF. You eat the yogurt and people's cancer goes away. 25% of children with autism have complete reversal after 3 weeks to 3 months, and everybody gets improvement. Now what's going on there? People with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is now also dramatically increasing in the world. These are all due to infectious diseases where the immune system is weakened. See, everything requires immune system function. When that breaks down, well, when your gut is no longer healthy functioning, it doesn't make this protein called GcMAF, which will bind with vitamin D and activate the macrophages to find the cancer and kill it, to find the viral infections and kill them. So we're just cutting out our immune system as soon as we start taking these glyphosates. And you know, there's something called the viral load. It just starts to increase and increase until it tips where the viruses in your body are stronger than your immune system. And if you, as soon as you start damaging your gut, your ability to sustain a stronger immune system than the viral load, the ability to sustain that immune system diminishes every time you're exposed to this. And it's not like one little candy bar with corn syrup is going to do all that. It's the repetitive, the soda drinks and the foods, and the vegetables that are all exposed to glyphosate. It goes in and it goes in. It keeps killing off these bacteria. And what we've done is we've killed off, to a great extent, the microbiome that's taken millions of years to develop. Fortunately, these scientists at University of Kentucky were able to have a test to say, do we have the original microbiome? Because they can combine these probiotics together and see that in this balance, they, in a yogurt, a fermented substance, will ferment and then produce this very, very important protein, GcMAF, and a host of others. I mean, there's some that we haven't even discovered. The body is so complex, it's beyond our comprehension. And to think that we're messing with that is just a crime against nature, and every parent needs to know this. And
well, you know, women, especially as they age, you know, there's a bacterial balance in their vaginas. And the glyphosate, these rampant antibiotics that we're all being exposed to, are having an effect on women. So many women are talking about painful intercourse. Their tissue is thinning, their tissue is drying, and it is changing their lives. It's
a major, major problem. As a marriage counselor, you're privy to this information. You know, we come together for a romantic experience with our partner, and sex is part of that. And as women are moving into menopause, suddenly they get the drying out, the thinning, and sex can be painful, and they do not know what to do. I mean, this is, and they often don't want to talk to their doctor about it, and often if the doctor does hear about it, they'll recommend taking hormones, and if you take hormones, your body stops making hormones. Since you bring that up, I'll mention that aloe vera can help treat that, and there are natural treatments for it. There's natural treatments for all these things, but again, as I mentioned, they only work if you stop beating yourself down with it. Again, I've studied these natural treatments for all these things, so hope is there to heal, but you cannot heal if you keep exposing yourself to the thing that causes the problem.
Well, so this goes then to the situation with companies like Monsanto that are promoting glyphosate, they're promoting their genetically modified crops that are engineered to withstand these antibiotics.
And the sad truth, if I can interrupt for a moment, is it was just this last year that alfalfa was just approved, and now they're using glyphosates on alfalfa. That means that the hay that our cows are eating, our cow meat, is all filled with glyphosates. Yeah. I mean, this is just, oh my gosh, this is wiping it out. And the milk that the cows are producing will have glyphosates in it, and this is, people don't know what we're doing. It's like mad science, and yet you take it, it's very clear that glyphosates have this effect on the beneficial bacteria in the gut. Now, one of the things is that literally, if you don't have the good bacteria in the gut, you can't make your vitamin D. If you can't make your vitamin D, you can't halt infections. If you can't halt infections, what happens? Your body starts producing a stress response. Now, once your body produces a stress response, the DHEA in your adrenal gland converts into cortisol. As soon as that starts happening on a chronic basis, the DHEA no longer converts into estrogen and progesterone. So women go through these menopausal symptoms that are completely rampant today. They're so common, menopausal symptoms, hot flashes, not being able to sleep at night, vaginal dryness, mood swings. They go on their antidepressants. They can't fall asleep at night. These are common symptoms today of menopause, so common that doctors tell women, well, this is normal. It will pass. This is the normal phase of life. If you go to indigenous tribes where they're not exposed to pesticides or glyphosates, What happens is, first of all, women don't go through menopause average till 70 years old. Okay, now we're getting it at 35, 40 even for some women. And it's much later, and when they go through menopause, they don't have hot flashes, they're practically unknown, they don't have the mood swings, they don't have problem sleep. All these symptoms that we think are just natural and normal are not natural and normal. We're a diseased society, we take it for granted. For men, your average 50-year-old man has half the testosterone levels he had as a young man. That's male menopause, a man on pause, and this is not natural and normal. And when we can restore our healthy gut flora, the good bacteria, which also helps to eliminate the candida and the bad bacteria, which can overpopulate very quickly. And there's all kinds of diets that people are doing, but still, you go on a, you can go on a cleansing diet and not feed the candida dies off, but you're still not putting in the good probiotics. But you could put in some good probiotics, and then you're eating your glyphosates, it's gone again.
Right.
And the candida grows faster. So it's a never-ending problem till we stop the problem. We have to end.
And the problem, unfortunately, as a country, we're going in the opposite direction, because now the weeds, super weeds, and super bugs are expressing a resistance to the glyphosate. So they've recently raised the level of exposure that the Environmental Protection Agency and the Food and Drug Administration allows for the general public in terms of exposure of glyphosate at the say-so of the corporations.
Right. They've raised it up because the weeds have adapted against it, which is the same thing which has happened with the medically prescribed antibiotics. Now we have antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and they don't know what to do, and that's becoming a huge problem. So you can't do this is the wrong direction to go in, as you're saying, and people they're not aware of it.
Here on Maui, we created awareness of it, and we're citizens initiative to raise petitions. To be able to get a moratorium on the ballot in November, which won in spite of Monsanto and Dow spending over $8 million campaigning against us. A small grassroots organization of community-minded people who care were able to swing the vote, and we won.
Yeah, we are amazed. We are so grateful that you've done that. Hawaii is leading the way for the rest of the country to wake up, and the rest of the world, because slowly Monsanto is trying to get into other countries. Many are resisting, but it's a very powerful force, and we have to stand up to it.
It's, they're putting it into the trade agreements. They're trying at a federal level. Currently, there's new legislation in Congress to strip the states of their rights to regulate agriculture. They want to be the federal government to supersede everybody, and no one will have a say-so, and no one will be able to control the corporations, the agrochemical companies, in what they're doing. So it's a critical time to bring awareness to this subject and to create a political movement that brings back home rule and doesn't allow this corporatocracy to take over the rights of our people.
I stand behind it 100%. We have to come back to growing our food naturally, and then we might be able to restore natural health, as opposed to the catastrophe that we're experiencing in our relationships, with our children, with education, with health. We have this huge healthcare crisis because more people are sick. And we're using drugs again to treat that, which doesn't really help. It's food is our medicine, medicine is our food. Okay, so this is the answer to this. We've sort of gone so far out, and coming back to that truth, the first step is to make sure that we're not continuing to promote things like glyphosates, RoundUp, Monsanto's products. This is the wrong direction.
One of the reasons that we were able to bring attention to what was going on here on Maui is that Maui is used as a testing zone. Because of the tropical climate, they get 3 to 4 growing seasons of generations of different seed. So they're able to use this climate to expedite their testing process.
Yes.
The testing process, they're looking for crops and seed varieties that are most resistant to glyphosate.
Right.
The only way to know that is to put as much glyphosate onto the plants as possible and see which ones survive. So they're loading the environment here more than any place else because of their open field testing. They're loading the environment here with glyphosate. You can't get away from it. On Maui, we also have sugarcane. And as part of the harvesting process, just as they're doing now with wheat, about a month before they do the cane burn, they spray the sugarcane with glyphosate. They don't try and kill the plant, but they're trying to brown the leaves so that when they do the burn, they burn better. And in that last month, it plumps up the stalk, which is what they're looking for. So we have an enormous program where glyphosate is sprayed across all of the agricultural land here on Maui. As well, municipal application along the roadsides, and all of the golf courses and the hotel areas are also very fond of using the glyphosate. It's everywhere. And
it's everywhere. California is in a sense, the breadbasket of America. Half the agriculture comes from California. California has the highest rate of autism in the world. We go from 1 out of 50 average in the mainland to California, 1 out of 20 boys have autistic spectrum disorder. It's just like, what is going on here? We have a hospital, a special hospital, charitable hospital for children, for mothers whose children are born with cancer. Now all of these children, this is hundreds of children, are born with cancer. And where do all these children reside? They reside on the big agricultural farms where they're using glyphosate. This is just all around us, and we have to stop this. We have to become aware of the air is being polluted, the water is being polluted. Here in Hawaii, I would assume the fish are being polluted because of it.
Sure.
Because it's going off of all the golf courses into the water, toxic, going into there.
Well, the production fields, you know, Maui's not very big. So the production fields, Monsanto's BT corn, which is also sprayed with glyphosate, those fields are not far from the ocean. It doesn't take much rain for that to run off. It doesn't take much wind for the dust to blow into people's yards, into their houses. There are areas on Maui where they're persistent dust. You just get it all the time blowing into their homes. And the glyphosate is bound up in the soil. It doesn't, they claim that the stuff just miraculously evaporates.
It doesn't evaporate.
And it doesn't. It's showing up in mother's milk. It's showing up where it's in urine. It's showing up in places where it's not supposed to be. And so we're able to bring awareness to the population here on Maui. And that's what contributed to our win in November. We're now tied up in the courts, predictably. Monsanto and Dow have launched a campaign in the courts to strip the people of our rights to have this legislation and to enforce this law. And so we're asking people to contribute to the SHAKA Movement Legal Defense Fund at the shakamovement.org. People can go and make a contribution to help us protect and help enforce the moratorium that the people voted for.
I support this wholeheartedly, and I see that in my work as a teacher in my own world, as traveling around, what I found is that in smaller communities, word travels faster, and that's the great benefit of here in Hawaii, is that if people just continue to share with other people this insight, the word can travel faster, and you can stand up to Monsanto. It's such a courageous thing that you're doing here, and I would ask everyone, to whatever you can offer, $25, $100, you know, $5, or sharing it with your friends and letting people know this is going on and support this movement. It's very courageous, and this will bring us back to the real food movement, where we're no longer polluting our food, polluting the air, polluting the water, polluting the food that our children are eating, because the learning difficulties, the learning challenges, the problems that we're seeing today are massive, and all comes back to polluted food, polluted water, polluted air. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John.